Guys, when I said that Gabbard lady was Bilbo Baggins' wife, I'm talking about the character on the Wakanda movie. I'm not talking about the actual person. I was being facetious. I always have to explain myself to people. It happens. I mean, you should. I'm just being silly. I'm good at that. I'm funny. I'd rather live the Gospels than try to be a millionaire that does propaganda for philanthropy that mass murders people. That's why I dropped out of college, right? Um, uh, Shit. No, I was out there shooting in the barn, thinking about old Martin Barreras and having to deal with the Mormon Mafia, is what they call it. My cousins told me about it in Mesa when I was married to Amy. And they're one of the world leaders in espionage with the Israelis. Okay, a lot of people are very much aware of that. And our house was very manipulated. It was very hard on my parents. His dad wanted us to have good, upstanding Christian moral values, and mom knew it was a big bucket of tribalism, racial hypocrisy. It's hard, your dad was looking for a place that only exists in Disney movies, and mom was Grandpa Murphy's daughter, so mom was a realist. Okay. Dad was looking for it's the second star to the right leads for, he was looking for that, Jim Smith and that John Wayne movie place that just doesn't exist. And mom was more realistic about it. And dad still has that in his mind, He thinks heaven will be a really good ending to a Jimmy Stewart or a John Wayne movie, right? Chisholm, John Chisholm, and mom's like, no, that's all bullshit. But mom was taken in by the academics. Mom was very Aristotelian, but Aristotle, the philosopher kings and the yeah. And dad is very Roman, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and may the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by. And it was very hard on Melissa Benegas's biological father trying to protect my sister from the virtual presence of the abuse from the Mormon mob. Well, dad was, it was reverting to like ancient times. They always bombed us back in the Stone Age economically and psychologically because of their virtual presence trying to replicate mythology. And dad was looking for the right person to help him raise the kids the right way. And mom wasn't the right person. His daughters are daddy's little girls. They're the same religion, same this, same that. But dad, no, my dad. He's gotten better at it now lately. But every time I talk to him about the Gospels, when he'd pray to Jesus, he'd go, "Oh, you're just like your mother." It's like, yeah, sure, you'd be right in thinking that the sun does rise and set on your ass, but it does on everyone else as well. And those are pixies, there ain't magic pixies pissing on your windshield. And don't give me shit on a plate and ask me for $20 and call it steak. Kiss my Scottish ass. I was out there in the in the barn thinking of my cousin Helen, Alan's mother. He said my prim and proper, Scottish mom. We went to go see Braveheart, and when they all mooned, she yells real loud, "Kiss my Scottish." I was like, "Ma, is that you?" I've had that with my mother too. When I was watching Episcopo do a few minutes with Andy Rooney, and he goes, "I'd like to know why there's so many names for women's breasts: Chugs, Gazabos, Bazambas, and why you can see boobs like this on TV." And it showed National Geographic while these African women dance with their boobs bouncing, and then it showed, and not like this. It showed Christy Brinkley with two little black dots over her nipples. My mom stops and starts laughing. I'm like, Ma, go to bed. Ma, get out of here. You're not supposed to be, you came out to the kitchen. You're not supposed to be watching this, mother. Go. It's not supposed to be funny to you. It was hilarious. I was like 14 at Dean Morgan Junior High, right? It was funny. But yeah, I get lots of questions from people when I'm in the barn, as I have talked to people in prayer, and explained to kids. No, are you kidding? No, Bob Cummins did it. No, Bob was right. I used to play basketball. When I played with guys that played professionally, you know, and a lot of them had told me that you're one of the best players I've ever played against. You got the quickest first step I've ever seen. You're really good. And I remember when we played Tony Jackson, who was 2 or 3 time state champion at Peoria High School with Pat. Well, you suck. He used to say that to me. How can you beat me? You suck. And Bob was like, no, Tony just can't come to terms with reality. He goes, I don't know. See, he goes, when we're playing with, he didn't ever apologize and said it was wrong. They all followed the reputation that I was a drug dealer and a thug and sold drugs to Bob and all that shit. And you know how gossip is. I know the neighborhood. And talking cheap is talking good. But it was weird to me because I was such a nice kid. But maybe drug dealers can be nice kids if they're trying to, people tell me that you really know the right things to say. And Bob didn't help by telling fucking Wayne Kindle, oh yeah, I get Ajax, anything I can put up my nose, I put there. And he said that, but Bob's mom told, no, Bob's being a smartass because your class is stupid and you're stupid. And they all thought, well, no, she's just saying that. You know how people are. And I'm like, Jenny, welcome to being a Mexican that always lies to Montenegra to avoid that. But they earned that reputation. They used to, they tunneled into Paradise Valley High School and they used to steal the family Christmas tree and got caught. And Bobby, what? Aisle 6, I need Tampax, Kotex, to embarrass you when you were in public with them, like my Uncle Donald used to do to me. And you're embarrassed being seen with me? Yeah, aren't you? I never said it. I was raised by a Southern gentleman, but I was thinking it, and they know. People know. My Uncle Donald knew. Earl, look for a constable. I'm relieving myself. He'd be pissing at Cielo Vista Mall, and the piss would get. He was wearing flip-flops, and I'm like, no habla inglés, no está gringo, está loco, Act like that in the parking lot with Mexican girls that come by that are really cute. I'm not with this crazy gringo. I don't speak English. It was hilarious, my Uncle Donald. And then he tried to give me a stolen Subaru Brat, and Dad wouldn't let me have it. It's like, no, but Dad, we could like scratch out the VIN numbers. It's automatic. It's got 4 seats in the back. Dad. I sound like Tom Chambers with his kids at Mercedes, at Phoenix Motors, Mercedes-Benz in Phoenix, right? Dad, please. No, he wouldn't let me. He helped me on a lot of things. He talked me out of that, which would have been a bad decision. He talked me out of trying to hook up with Tella, Earl, and it worked because later when Peggy told me, no, she almost bit my nipple off getting in a fight with Mara and Debbie Trujillo over Benny Fielder. I was like, okay, good thing I didn't date her. Well, that would have been a disaster. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure the sex would have been great. But would it have been worth it? No, Dad talked me out of it. Well, because he's my dad. He's supposed to do stuff like that. I wasn't thinking. Well, she had a nice body, and I didn't see that part of her. She was living in a rough way, and I thought maybe I just might have a different effect on her. But no, it doesn't happen. You get with girls and other girls, and they get jealous, and they get crazy. And, oh, gosh, Steffi, I had to look at the ground every time we went somewhere in Fayetteville because I was always accused of looking at someone else when she was looking at someone else. I was like, you were interested in that. No, I was interested in the classy one that reminds me of Claire Huxtable. You were interested in the girl in the hoochie outfit with the yoga pants and the big butt and the fake hair. Oh, no. I was more like, why can't you be more like Claire Huxtable and her mom picking out little dresses for the baby and being real sweet and classy? Why do you always got to yell at me? You wanted to fuck her. I don't want to fuck her. Why are you accusing me of that? And I found out later, oh, she was wanting to fuck her. Oh, Cheated people, when they think about cheating, you'll find they're always accusing you of it. When Amy cheated, she used to accuse me of cheating. I got so pissed, because I was like, God damn, I'm going to the library and finally getting emails and getting a hold of my son for the first time in years because he's in high school and he has his own email account. And you're trying to sit there and say, I'm having sex with the librarian. Shit. Because I was coming home with new music and everything, too. I was Mary J. Blige and Save Room for My Love. And I was tiring new music and listening to it. And she was like, somebody's hipping you. No, I'm just looking through the music they have at the thing after I talked to Patrick on the computer through email. Yeah. And that's why I come all happy and excited because I'm talking to my son again. But I didn't want to tell her because I didn't want her to fuck it up. She has email at work. I don't. At the house, and I didn't have email at work, So it was a very compare. And Patrick, why did you marry Amy? It's like, okay, Natalie, Noah, Emily, Kate, and Crummy Cake. Okay, and Barbara said that these kids' lives would have been just horrible and terrible with the way Amy was at trying to be a parent until you showed up and rescued these kids from bar hopping and being left with babysitters that would sexually abuse them and all kinds of horrible things. I was like, yeah, I know. But, it is what it is. But yeah, what the Mormon Mafia did to Martin Barreras, it's horrible. I don't think people understand it. I understand it completely. But Martin's a good guy. Okay. Yeah, so what if he goes out? So what if he smoked weed? That's where him and Pancha met. Following the Acosta's truck, Frank Acosta's truck around with a keg in the back, outrunning the deputies. Yeah. And they would take me along, and I was always like one of the designated helpers and driver type people. And I didn't get drunk. I hate alcohol. I despise alcohol. Okay. What alcohol did to my grandfather, what alcohol did to my marriages, what alcohol did and affected my dad, and oh gosh, no, I hate alcohol. Alcohol causes birth defects and immune deficiency syndrome, and stuff, and causes kids to have, Down syndrome and stuff like that. So no, I despise alcohol. I loathe it. Okay. I absolutely loathe alcohol. Okay. And anybody who jumps my shit about me asking, I don't jump people's shit. I just ask them not to and explain to them why. Because I love them. And then people jump my shit about it. Don't talk about that. Save room for my love. Save room for a moment to be with me. Right. Say that you'll stay just a little, stand for the Lord's Prayer, hasta aquí hoy, so no, but Bob said that about Tony. He said, no, he's just jealous of you and he just can't be rational. He said, Earl, he goes, even if Dick Cheney and the Bushes eradicated all my video footage of basketball, okay? He'd go, no. I had to tell Bob, you do know that guy's 6'11" and has a 7'6" wingspan, and Mike over there has over a 40-inch vertical. He's 6'6" and has over a 7-foot wingspan. When I go through the lane, I have to do that, Bob. He goes, no, but Earl, you throw the ball out to yourself, you catch it, you jump up in the air like the Larry Nance poster, but you're a foot smaller than he is. You're jumping between these two big guys. You're sitting there with the ball in one hand. I got that from the Girls brothers who used to sit there and step under my nutsack with their shoulders when I took my jump shot. They said it decreases my shooting percentage exponentially, right? So I jump in the air like a scissor so no one could jump under my ball sack. And I'd have the ball with one hand in the air. I'd throw it out with my left hand, catch it, switch it over to my right, and jump. And Bob said, he goes, Earl, you were throwing the ball into the basket like you were throwing it into a waste paper basket. You were throwing it down into the basket. That's how high you were. I was like, yeah, I know. I had to, Bob. That one guy's he's 7 feet tall with a 7'6" wingspan, and the other guy's 6'6" with a 7-foot wingspan and a 40-inch vertical. I had to do it. I had no other choice. Throughout the thermocoupling, and I had to put in that. You had no other choice, Earl. Right, Brian Regan, right. It was funny. But Bob says, I don't see how Tony could say you suck. I mean, I'm watching, and you're watching the same thing. I'm watching this guy throw the ball, catch it, take him. And when I would attract Tony, Tony used to do that every time. He'd come, and when someone would be going down on my left, I'd get the ball at half court, and I would high step real high, and I would dribble the ball real fast back and forth between my legs. So he'd come at me to try to guard me, and then as soon as it went from left to right hand, the guy that was heading down the left baseline, because I would attract the defender, there went the pass, wham, and it was gorgeous. And Bob was like, they don't have highlights like that with any of the that was even better than the pass that between the legs that Walter Davis did. It might be. Yeah, it's pretty gorgeous. I didn't think about it. I just did it because you attract the other guys to make them guard you, like I used to do with the kids at East, So you do something, he think he bad, and then they come at you, and then you have a wide open shot for your teammate. And Bob used to say that. He goes, it was spectacular, the things that you used to do against those ex-pro ball players, and they used to tell you, You're one of the best players I've ever played against. And Tony Jackson, who was all state and mad because he didn't get a scholarship because he was 5'7", would say how you suck. He, and then I'm like, oh God, just like all the kids at Mayfield with my dad. Yeah, but you suck. And he goes, no, you don't suck. Like Martine, when we were playing basketball, he told me what a shithead that Oliver and Kaufman were best friends, and Kaufman was worse than Oliver. Okay, because what he did to Ponce and he did to Leidenheimer. And so he said I wasn't going to play. Well, I'm going to try my best. I mean, he ain't going to play you. He's going to keep, and he did. He did exactly what Martin said. He kept me till the very last game, and he cut me and Paul and Cedric Diaz because he didn't like us, because he was jealous of us. 'Cause, one, we were good athletes, we were attractive, and we had integrity, and we're nice people. Pretty much. Harv and Martine, he had to have somebody on the team that was good, and he had to have kids that he wasn't as jealous of. Javier Lujan and Martin Diaz just weren't as... He thought me and Paul and Cedric were cocky, and Leidenheimer too. And he used to sit there and tell my mom, I didn't get to do anything that I did at Mayfield at Cruces. I'm sure I played JV power forward the whole time. Like, what's his face tried to do to me, and never set me up to get embarrassed. Never set me up to embarrass him, even though it was hilarious, and I did. Because Gordon tried to hurt me. He tried to physically. He would try to do like that wrestler did with Junior at the thing. He would try to shove his elbow into my trachea. He was dirty as fuck. And I thought, he's just fighting to make the team. That's how naive and stupid I was. And then I feel bad for him because I would just matador him. He'd lean into me. I'd just step back. He'd almost fall down. I'd get rebounds. I could jump over him and around him. And I thought, I'm making the team. I'm getting all the rebounds. I'm 5'11", 150 pounds, and I'm going against a guy who's 6'4", 220 in the pose, 215, 220. He might have been about 230. He was kind of a chunky guy. And I'm destroying him. Okay, that's a pretty good size for a power forward on JV in New Mexico, 6'4", about 235. And I was 5'11", $150, and I played with that guy in the post. He couldn't get a rebound without my permission. I let him get rebounds and put back sometimes because I felt sorry for him. Okay. Because he would cuss, and I thought he's going to get kicked off the team. No, that was not Kaufman's style. He was just a really shitty person. He was jealous of people, and he was crappy, and Martin knew. So Martin, like I said, we were shooting baskets. He's like, you ain't going to play. You're really good. I mean, you're the best, probably one of the best players in this city, but it's not going to happen. And in the state. And then we played football, and he's like, he's the best receiver prospect cornerback in the whole state. He's awesome. He was freaking out because he's like, you're good on basketball, but you might be even better at football. He threw the ball up, and I would reach up with one hand and grab it to keep it going to the neighbor's yard. He's the perfect Frisbee dog. That's what he told the coach. No, he's skinny. Yeah, I know. He looks like a skinny little, Freddie Prinze. But he's the perfect Frisbee dog. He catches everything. You can throw it 10 feet up in the air over the neighbor's fence. He jumps up and catches it with one hand like it's nothing. And he has more fun doing that than if you throw him a good pass, right? He's amazing. It's funny. The coach just looked at me and laughed. And then and then in flag football that year, when I toasted all his receivers and same thing that happened to Mayfield. Toasted all his receivers and his cornerbacks at flag football like they were standing still. And he asked me about, and I laughed at him. Just like I did Sonny Karras at Mayfield. Laughed at him. You laugh at me, I laugh at you. Yeah. Well, I asked Karras about football, and he laughed at me. And then Coach Swayze, I liked Coach Swayze. He was such a nice guy. He's really cool. He laughed his ass off. When I laughed at him, he just looked at him and said, that's what you get for being a macho dick. You should get over each. And Coach Swayze, it was basically his thing to Sonny Karras. You should never disrespect a kid and get every chip it can. You don't know what they can do till they get out there and do it, is what Coach Swayze said. And it's like, and they fired you because he didn't have a winning record. He had a better record than Karras. But they were with Bradley, they were always winning. Okay. And then it didn't shift from Cruces to whatever. I don't know what happened. They hadn't built Oñate yet. and stuff. It was just, it was weird. When I was there, they just had really bad coaches. The basketball teams were good, but the football teams were terrible when the 80s when I was in school. Yeah, they were bad. I think it had a lot to do with the coaching. I don't know. It was pretty weird. Talent wise, no, they had good players. Terry Fielder was a good player. Larry Starrett was a pretty good player. They had a now it's in Nelson. They had some good players. Andy Segovia was a good player. The Madrid brothers were good. They had talented players. Stacy Gardner. They got better after I left. I think Mayfield went to the playoffs and Stacy made the state, whatever and stuff. It was just weird. It was just, when I was there, it was bizarro. It really was. But yeah, it was a trip. But Martine, he was the best. No, the Martin and the Mormon mob, they were shitty to him. They fucked that kid. Everywhere he went. He couldn't get jobs. It was like, hip, 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 go back to the house. Hear that woman's mouth preaching and crying. And Pancha was shitty to him about it. And I tried to explain to her, Pancha, they make fun of him. This town is horrible. I didn't know the extent. Now I do. But Pancha didn't know either. No, she was just like that naive black girl with the newspaper. When I get the paper, I read it through and through, and my girl never fails to see if there is any work for me. No, they were not going to let him date Pancha in this town and keep. No. It's like Danny told me about the guy who married the Asian woman in his church and got run out of town, and they tried to Alamogordo, and they did there, and they had to leave because he married outside of his social connections. Just yeah, it was horrible. I didn't know. I and Mr. Swank and his KKKers that were buddies with the sheriff's deputy department back then. I did not know. I was so naive. I was dopey do. I didn't know, American me. That's why American History X or whatever. And I explained that to Amy, and I was like, no, you were married to Edward Norton's character. But I was like way better than Edward Norton's character. I could play ball like you wouldn't believe. I was one of the best ball players in the country. Okay. My dad knew. He told me, he goes, Earl, you could play at Kansas or UCLA or where do you want to play? You're so much better than most of the other kids that you play against. And I was like, yeah, I knew it, but it was hard because these coaches were so horrible. And the kids were horrible. The kids would gossip about you and tell everybody. And the gossip was worse in Phoenix than it was in Cruces. Cruces, it was like a network because of the Mormon mob and the military. And in Phoenix, they didn't really have to, it didn't take much for those kids to take to bully people and then to take a story and run with it. And then, and there was good coaches like Kaforis and Allen that they didn't care where I came from and what I did and the stories that I used to protect people from the bullies, and the bullies were the jocks. So I pretended to be a thug to protect the bullies from the jocks. Yeah, don't fuck with me. What piece of weight equipment do you want me to bounce your head off first? And Kaforis and Allen was like, we want this kid on the team. We need him on the team. A 6 foot, 160-pound enforcer at the wide receiver and the quarterback position. No. This is my side of the field. No. Yeah, they knew it. They're like, God, no, this guy, he'll take away half the field. And the other guy, Kevin Holloway, used to yell at me all the time. He's like, Earl, fucking what's his face, Burkbin or whatever, Zygmunt's best friend, the other receiver, he can't get open one-on-one coverage. They double him. It makes it twice as hard. Because if you were on the other side, I would be catching touchdown bombs all night long because they'd be trying to triple team you, going over the middle and Bolitnikoffing your way everywhere. Yeah, I know. And John Jefferson your way in the end zone. So I was like, yeah, I know. I know how good I was. I just didn't, you don't think it. You really don't. You look at the guys on TV and you don't think you're as good as they are. You do certain things. Your friends will explain it to you and tell you, Earl, did you see what you just did? Yeah, no, but it was adrenaline. I had to. The guy's 7 foot tall. I had to do it. I had no other choice. I blew out the thermal company and I had to do. You had no choice, Earl. There you go. Yeah, like Brian Regan. Something wrong with your car, man. Something wrong with your car. But that was funny too when Bob did that with my dad. There's wrenches for that. He goes in the shed and opens up the toolbox and gets all the stuff I needed. Me and Bob finished it in 5 minutes. I said, I've been working on that for 2 hours. And then when I explained it to Dad, he goes, yeah, you were being all cocky and say you were going to be a pro basketball player and make the poor people work on your car. He goes, now you can be respectful to the people that work on the car. You can do the work yourself and see if you're getting ripped off, and you can do the work with the bare minimum of tools. And Bob's like, aren't dads great? And I'm like, fuck you, Bob. He thought it was funny. That was great, man. He just taught you a really good lesson. You were being all cocky. I'm going to be a pro basketball player. Other people are going to work them. I had $300. I was going to take it to the shop and let other people fix it. And he goes, no. Takes me down to Pep Boys and buys all the parts and goes, here. He did the same thing if I had to rebuild my carburetor. He did the same thing. Yeah. I was like, but Dad, I saved up all my money. I got like $300. I'll take it down to Pep Boys, let the other guys work on it. Help the mechanics out. No. You're not going to use people as your servants. But Dad, I'm going to play in the NBA, right? I was thinking like Jennifer Lopez's future boyfriend, right? Even if you're broke, my love don't cost a thing, right? It was funny. Yeah, I know. My dad was great at that stuff, yeah. Bob thought it was hilarious. He always called my dad, Dad, and Mom. Dad. No, Dad loved Bob and Link and Brett and Mike. They were fun kids. They were good kids. Dad, they called him Dad. Especially Bob, because Bob didn't have a dad. So he had to borrow mine. When mine was around, yeah, he loved my pops. Yeah, this is great. Look what he did. Look how he did that. Did you see how he did that? Shut up, Bob. He would always do that. Every time Dad would do a lesson, like Bob would be the one to show up. I was like, Cummins, you're not fucking funny. Yeah, you need to adjust your fucking attitude. Shit was great. Yeah. Oh, we don't need no video. We got me. It's like I told Patrick, they make all those movies about time machines. And you don't need time machines. You got two of them. You got Grandpa over there and you got me. And if you don't get the right time machine answer to fix your shit before you do your shit, you can get it from Grandpa over there. He's got more time of service. We're your living time machines, right? Okay, guys. I love you. I'll talk to you later. Please grow the fuck up. If you can, I'm constantly fixing your technology. We take one step forward and one step back. I don't think it's working that way. I think the technology is getting way better than the people that invented it think they can handle. I may be crazy, but it's just maybe a lunatic you're looking for. Okay, guys? I love you. All right? Peace out.